I am not from the Seattle area. Most of you know that. Most of you know that I moved to Washington from Wisconsin 3 years ago, but I am not from Wisconsin either. I could keep backtracking through my life, all through the 8 US states and 3 foreign countries where I have lived, all the way back to my birth in the Philippines. Where is it that I am from? All my life, I have felt my stomach tighten when somebody asks me that question. Where are you from? Because I don't know how to answer it. What is the context for this question? How much do they want to know? How much do I want to share? Where do I belong? Where am I from? Sometimes when David mentions to people that I don't know or who don't know me and don't know that I grew up in the Philippines, he has to explain that no, I am not a mail order bride. After all, there are assumptions about people who come from the Philippines. There are assumptions about men in their 50s who marry someone from the Philippines. And those assumptions often include that the woman in question was just seeking a sugar daddy to move her to the US where she could live a life of privilege. And there are assumptions about the man in the question, that he is paid for the affection of a submissive, exotic Asian bride. None of that is true for us, which makes it sort of funny and mostly just sad, because it reveals some ugly racist stereotypes that we hold deep inside of us, sometimes without even knowing that they are there. How do you answer the question, where are you from? What assumptions do people have about that place? Are the impressions that people have generally favorable or unfavorable about that place? Is the reputation of that place the same way that you experienced it? Even a little bit? Where are you from? In today's gospel lesson, Nathaniel has some assumptions about what it means that Jesus is from Nazareth. And I don't know entirely what those assumptions are, but his question, can anything good come out of Nazareth, tells us basically all we need to know about his impression of that place. Notice that no one contradicts him. They don't try to correct his impression of Nazareth. They simply say, come and see, come and meet Jesus. Actually, I prefer a variation of the question, where are you from? And it's asked in the novel Dune. Tell me of the waters of your homeworld, Usul. Because whether or not we're from a particular geographic place, whether or not people think they know about that place, the waters of our homeworld are the waters of baptism. Those waters are the great equalizers. All who emerge from those waters are valued members of the family of God. And if we reach back even further than those waters, all the way back, we will find that we are from the waters that turned the dirt in the Garden of Eden into the mud from which God formed humankind. Can anything good come from mud? Well, yes. Our God is a masterful potter with mud in his hands. But even divinely crafted mud creatures are just mud until God breathes the breath of life into them. And then it becomes a living being. And God is so delighted with this creation that God makes more. And once God has fashioned a living, breathing being from the earth, then God asks them to tend to the earth from which they come, to steward it and till it, to show respect. And in return, then God asks the plants and animals to look after humankind and to sustain them. All of creation is designed to live in this mutual and symbiotic interdependence. It's when we lose our sense of wonder at God's diverse and amazing creativity that we tend to fall that we tend to fall into criticizing and discriminating against parts of it that are not like us. We make assessments about the relative worth of other people and creatures that are far from accurate when we forget that we are all from the same mud. And on our bleakest days, when we doubt that the details and relationships that make up our own lives could ever be called good, we fall out of alignment with the Creator who brought us into being. Nathaniel doubts that anything good can come out of Nazareth, and he is invited to come and see if that is true. And when he does, he discovers that Jesus is unlike anyone he has ever known from Nazareth or anywhere else. Our judgments about other people, based on our presuppositions about their culture, their neighborhood, their age, their political party, their religious affiliations or lack thereof, their employment, their race, their gender identity, their economic status, all the other factors by which we think we know someone, cause us to risk missing an encounter with something totally new, cause us to miss maybe even seeing Jesus. When we don't recognize our fellow mud creatures as creatures made in God's own image, we've strayed far from the waters of our home world that always proclaim all are welcome. So this week, our homework is, let's refrain from jumping to conclusions about people. Instead, let's get close enough to ask the question, where are you from? Or some variation of that question. And then let us listen, really listen to the answers. Learn about the waters of their home world. We might find in our encounters that we are face to face with God. The imprint of our home world is on our foreheads in the form of a cross, and it reminds us that we are always invited to rest in the place where we are really from, the heart of God. My friends, 'tis grace has brought us safe thus far, and grace will lead us home. Amen.